discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, this video is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering you a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial membership. All you need to do is go to audibletrial.com/BG The link is in the description below, and now enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today we are doing a top 10 expansions list. This one was very difficult to make.
As in to narrow down, or just
as in narrow? Yeah, no, to narrow down. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was very easy to come up with a list of expansions, but there are some games like that I was looking at that were obvious ones that had expansions, and I'm like, those don't really do anything. So it was. The way I made my list was how radically the expansion changed the game, or how much it brought to the game. Like, I didn't make any, because you obviously know I hate expansions that fix a game.
Right.
So I avoided all that because, in my opinion, like, the expansions may be great, but I don't like the base game. So I have to like the base game as well.
Yeah, like I like all these games. I like kind of like, I think that's what you said. These are in order of how.
I kind of did these in order of how much I like the expansion.
Yeah, I mean, I could say that, but then I could also say how much it changed. I don't know. Just
right.
It's a mishmash. This was really difficult for me too.
Okay.
Because I had so many games when I made my list of expansions, and then narrowing it down, and then I was surprised by some that actually hit this list and ended up staying on there.
Yep. And there were some, because we had written up these lists a while back, and it just never got around to doing it. So I went back and looked at that, and I was like, oh shit, there's one. And then I'm like, crap, okay, that's going to go probably here.
And this one's the one I'm paranoid that I forgot about something. Because I sit there and I just combed BGG, and I comb my collection. I'm like, God, I feel like I'm forgetting
because
something.
I wanted to look on BGG, but then I'm like, wait, no. Like, I just looked through my collection because I know the expansion that'll be for that.
Right.
But funny enough, I did almost miss one, but I got it on the list. Yeah, so I'll start this one because we did the last one. So the honorable mention for a game that just missed this list, or an expansion that just missed this list, but it's still a stellar expansion, is the Capitals expansion from Between Two Cities. So have you played Castles of Mad King Ludwig?
Yes.
Did you play Between Two Castles?
I've never played anything with the Between.
So the Between Two Cities game is a phenomenal tile laying where you're building two cities. You and another player are building one city together, and then you and another player are building a city together. And how well you do, the lower score of your two cities is your final score. Gotcha. So it's a tile drafting game and tile laying game where you're trying to. It's so good. Like, it's so good. Like, imagine Seven Wonders, but you and another player are building a wonder together. So you're drafting and you're sitting there like, okay, so I want this one to go here, and then I want this one to go here, and then you'll play them, and then you'll look at it and then be like, okay, so what do you pick? What do you think goes best here? What strategy do we want to go? And it's cooperative, which is neat, but you don't want to put all your resources in one, because if you do, then you'll be like, wow, 110 points, 40. That's your final score. So that's Between Two Cities.
Would you be able to play this solo with two cities? Like, you just have two hands? Or is that cheating?
That would technically be cheating because you can't talk about your...
Okay, that's what I was curious
about. And I think they have a two-player variant where you both are controlling the third one. But I think this is one of those games that can be played with a bunch of people just because... kind of like Seven Wonders.
Right.
Anyway, the Capitals expansion adds one new tiles. It adds kind of a tile that has it wants to be next to this, which will give you points. But if it's also next to this, you lose points. So it gives you a bunch of options and new variety of ways to build your city. And then it also adds these landscape tiles, so that kind of restrict on how you can do things. So if you're like, okay, well, here's the mountain range, and there's like a mountain right in the middle, well, then you have to build around that. So it just gives you more strategy to that. It kind of makes the game a little more gamier, which I think is really good. Then it also adds just different ways you can get points. Hey, if your city has the most factories, you'll get 7 points, and then if you're second place, they get 3.
Right.
And it's interesting because there's 3 of those, and first place points go down as you go, but the second place points go up. So it just adds. That's another thing that it can add. So I mean, it's my number 11. Even though the expansion is awesome, it doesn't add a whole lot to it, but it adds just enough to make that game stellar. So that's my number 11.
All right, my number 11 was one of the surprises that it even was this high. And this expansion, if you're not playing with like your mom and dad introducing board games, you probably need this expansion because it adds so much steam to it. And that's the King of Tokyo power-up expansion.
Oh, okay.
Because if you just play King of Tokyo base game, the only differences between your players are what ends up happening when you buy stuff from that deck.
I see.
With your energy cubes and stuff.
Okay.
When you get this power-up expansion, choosing your monsters matters now because the King Kong character has his own deck of power-ups, and so it gives each monster their own deal. So now they feel like their own,
right?
And that just makes it so much better overall. They have the power-up for every monster. I think with the New York one, they have the power-up expansion for that too. And like I said, unless you're playing with people that have never touched games before, which King of Tokyo can be one of those easily, the power-up expansion just makes it actually a better game with its asynchronous powers.
I've heard that game is one that, or that expansion is like, I will never not play with this.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So,
how many crossovers do you think we'll have?
Yep, let me look.
I think we will have 5.
5 crossovers?
5 crossover. Unless like you said, you forgot, but yeah.
Holy crap.
3.
I
think we'll have 5.
I think 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I'm going.
You haven't played that one.
Yeah, there's some that I can't remember if you played.
I would say maybe 4.
Maybe 4.
Probably 3, but maybe 4.
I wonder.
Unless I forgot. That's what I'm saying.
Thinking you might have forgot, or maybe you just don't regard it as high of an expansion as I do.
Right.
So, my number 10 is. Man, this is so funny that this game has hit a bunch of lists just because I never thought I would have liked it. But is the Artisans of Nacala expansion for 5 tribes. Now, this expansion replaced the new expansion for Inish. Almost made this list, the Seasons of Inish. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, it's a modular expansion, which I think modular expansions are way better than any other kind of expansion. Yeah. However, like what it added was neat, but I think the Artisans of Nacala changed the game drastically enough that it's almost a necessity. Because that's, I'm gonna sound like I don't know. That's the one that added the
purple.
Thank you. Yes, it added the purple and
it added the mountains.
Mountains. Thank you.
And the pit.
Yep.
Tile and stuff. Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because they have another the Whims of the Sultan or something like that, which I still haven't played. But this one, just the fact that it adds mountains, which block off routes to get to tiles, are just like I didn't even really consider the purple meeples because I think just those mountain ranges drastically changes the game enough to where now it even fixes kind of the analysis paralysis because you don't have 25 tiles that you can go anywhere. You're still kind of limited. You can get to those, but you have to think of a different path to get to, which can kind of help. But the purple meeples then give you access to special abilities.
Well, then you can use them to trade them to buy those treasures.
The treasures, yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So, and they're also another way to get victory points. So, with that expansion, I just think it just helped 5 tribes enough. So that's my number 10.
Alright. No argument there. Let's see here. My number 10 is an old game. Lords of Waterdeep.
Oh, okay.
Scoundrels of Skullport.
Yep. That's a good one.
Lords of Waterdeep was a great game. It just it played itself out.
Yeah, it's not
especially for introducing worker placement.
Right.
So it's a great gateway
yeah.
into that deal.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But after you've played it a couple of times, then you want more.
Mm-hmm.
Then they came out with Scoundrels of Skullport, which added 2 more boards. Added Undermountain, and then added the Skullport. Which, the Undermountain, take it or leave it, that's just more spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But the Skullport is the big part of it, because you start taking these actions, but in exchange you have to start taking these the skull, the resources.
Yep.
Excuse me. And what's cool about it is, yeah, it's not a big deal, these skulls, but then the more you get, and the more they get taken by the rest of the players, the more negative points they get to be worth throughout the game for each one you have.
That's
so
right.
There's
yeah.
so like right at the beginning, each one you have may be worth -1, but then once all those 5 or 6 or whatever on that circle are gone, and you start moving, and you move to the second pool that has -2, then every one you have is worth -2. So there's strategies in there where you're trying to give people those, or trying to take a bunch, because then there's some cards that you can those event whatever they call them, missions, events, whatever that you're doing, that'll let you take skulls and put them back on the track. So
that's right.
So you're kind of it's a whole other play,
mm-hmm.
playing around with kind of thing to pose people, and the abilities are really good that are on there, so they kind of want you to take this stuff.
You okay?
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I got to scratch my throat. But so anyway, it adds enough gamery elements to it that actually brings this game to the table more now than it did at the beginning. And it's not too difficult to where it almost makes it to where probably after that initial play, if you're showing somebody, then you can just throw this
you can put it in there,
throw this in, and it's pretty self-explanatory.
Right.
Anyway, it's keeping it on the table.
Awesome. Yeah, that's actually a good thing. Is like with expansions, like a good expansion will constantly, like you said, bring it back
right.
to the table more and more. So my number 9 is, unless you forgot about it, will be, I would imagine it'd be on your list later on, is the Prelude expansion to Terraforming Mars. So Terraforming Mars is already a phenomenal game in and of itself. Just the card, no, it's not card drafting, the card use and the engine building is what I was thinking of to Terraform Mars. But the problem is you can kind of be blindsided, but you're like, I don't know what to do with this. And Terraform Mars has a bunch of expansions. They actually just released another one. Not just released, but they're kickstarted another one. But the Prelude expansion is one I will never not play this game with. You basically are handed 2 cards, and they're your company cards that you pick one, and that kind of kickstarts what you how you start the game. So you will have a special ability that is like, oh, whenever you have to convert heat, you can do it for 1 less, or something like that. But it also gives you like a different resource and stuff that you can also manage a little bit better than others. So just that sheer, I mean, it's a small expansion, but it changes so much with this game that I think it's fantastic.
It's rare that an expansion like that, usually an expansion makes a game more convoluted, generally.
Yeah.
Or add more stuff
For
and
the
time
most
to the
part.
game. Prelude actually knocks time off the game.
Oh yeah,
Because that was something they've said, like it actually makes the games go faster.
Yeah, because you don't have to do like the first 2 rounds,
right.
like trying to set up your thing. You're already kind of started.
Right, so it's almost something that should have been in the box to start with.
I mean,
really.
No, that is a good point. Like that should have been a mod. It's like, hey, if you, yeah, you're right. That should have already been like a modular expansion in the base game, but it's not.
No,
so
right, yeah.
So it's an expansion that I think is fantastic. Like there are other ones. I mean, take it or leave it. Like, but this one is like, no, I will. Like, if I'm teaching someone Terraforming Mars, I will teach them with this expansion.
Right.
So that's my number 9.
All right, my number 9 is Blood Bowl Team Manager.
Okay.
Sudden Death expansion.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
I put Sudden Death / Foul Play on here. Those are the 2 expansions.
Gotcha.
I decided on Sudden Death. Because it adds a new league and new teams.
Okay.
So it's got the league with like the vampires and the zombies and stuff. So it adds those teams to the deal. It gives you these special ball, like a special mystical football type things or something. More just junk.
Yeah.
More cheatiness and stuff. There's blood tokens for the vampires and all that stuff. It's if you've played Blood, I don't know if you've played the actual core game. I think you'd actually like it.
You think?
Yeah. But if that game needed something, it was just more teams.
Gotcha.
And adding these odd teams, because when you think about the Blood Bowl universe, like the fantasy Blood Bowl, with the orcs and the chaos and all that stuff, then getting the zombies and those in there are kind of neat. It adds a little different,
a little variety.
And then the reason I was fighting with Foul Play is because stadiums get brought in on Foul Play.
Oh, okay.
So then there's stadium abilities and stuff like that. But I like the teams over that. So this is all out of print now. It was ever since Fantasy Flight and
Games Workshop.
Games Workshop split.
That's right.
You can get it. It's not super expensive, but
yeah,
it's marked up for sure.
I see.
But yeah, it's just for the team's sake and a couple of special abilities and star players.
Okay.
Sudden Death expansion for Blood Bowl Team Manager.
Neat. My number 8 is another game that I think will be on or another expansion. And we've brought this up multiple times in other lists. It's To Forge a Realm, the expansion for Kingsburg, which is interesting because this, so technically it's an expansion, but the second edition for this game, it comes in the base box. So
that's why I didn't put it on my list.
Oh, I see.
Because now when you buy it, it's not really an expansion. It's just part of the game.
But the way I look at it is that like it's classified as an expansion. Even if you're buying it, it's like, well, unless they refuse to print the base thing and you just set it up, then you still have to have those pieces. So to me, I still put it on here. So the Forge a Realm, basically it just added variety with your game. Because it's a dice worker placement there, you're trying to get resources to build different buildings, which do special things. But in the base game, everyone had the same sheet. So everyone was building pretty much the same thing. And to Forge a Realm, you were given these strips that you could cover up certain sections that someone else might not want to cover up, and they could get different strips to cover, so it made everyone have a variety of what they were building, depending on the strategy that they wanted to go with. So just that little change makes that expansion fantastic, because in other games where if everyone's doing the same thing, it kind of gets boring, and you can only do so much, especially in Kingsburg with the dice and where you place them. So if everyone is already kind of going to the same areas on the board, and they're building the same thing, then it's like, man, there's not really a whole lot of game here. So with that, I think it's fantastic. But yes, technically, it's not an expansion.
I don't disagree. Like I said, I had so many games that I had to narrow it down. That was one of the things that
knocked it off.
So it's a modular expansion. So is your favorite part of that modular expansion the strips?
Yes.
My favorite is the discs with the numbers.
Interesting.
Instead of rolling the dice at the end.
Yeah.
To see if you add that to your deal to beat the invaders.
Yeah.
I like those chips.
Okay.
Because they're hidden information till the end, and what you don't use is victory points at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Because what I found out, what always happened to me in that base game was there was no way to catch the lead. I mean, like if this person had this and he rolls a 5, then everybody's going to, everybody gets the same jump to their attack.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
This one you can be kind of like, you still roll the die, but you add this to it, and it's like, so you kind of game it a little bit. And it's like, do I want to spend that as opposed to victory points?
Yep, you're right. I actually forgot about those discs. I thought that came with the base game. Yeah, I mean, and that's, like I said, modular expansions.
Yes.
are fantastic for that very reason, because it's not like an expansion that comes in and it's like, you have to do all of this, but I don't like half of it. Like, so, yeah, that's a good point. So that's my number 8, To Forge a Realm.
My number 8 is our first crossover.
Okay, is it 5 Tribes?
No.
Oh, it's okay, so Prelude.
Yep.
Okay.
Terraforming Mars, Prelude. Same thing he said. I mean, it's just one of those things that you just, once you play with this, it just makes the game so much more smooth.
It's smooth, yeah.
You know, because at the beginning, because when you set this game down and you get that first hand of cards, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know, and this guides you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that in itself. Because Terraforming Mars is kind of a daunting game. Like, if you bring in even not a new gamer, but somebody that hasn't.
He's like kind of like past the gateway stage, but still not like into a lot.
And you're trying to explain this game, and they start getting glossy-eyed and all that stuff. Like this one, they see it and they're like, okay, I need this.
Yeah.
So then they know as soon as they get their hand of cards, like, okay, this is a good choice, you know, and stuff. So it kind of just makes the ease of entry into it, and then in doing that makes everything else better, because then they learn the game quicker, and then you can start throwing colonies and everything into it as well. So yeah, Prelude's my number 8.
Okay, awesome. My number 7, and this game and its expansions I actually had a difficult time with, because realistically I would have put the newest expansion that came out for it, but 1, I haven't finished it, and 2, so far it's not, and I think it's because I haven't finished it yet, but it's the Wind Gambit expansion for Scythe. So obviously Scythe made the Rise of Fenris expansion, which is their campaign that at the end will add the modules to it, and that in and of itself, like, I already really love what we're doing here, except the last game we played, I actually really didn't like what happened, but I was like, well, I haven't finished it, but most likely it'll replace this. But the Wind Gambit expansion added such, like, it made the game and the player interaction that much more quicker, because it added they're not the Zeppelins, essentially, or the airships. So now you have way more mobility with these things, which was kind of a problem with Scythe, because it's like, okay, first you have your 2 things, and you're trying to get the resources to build your mech, and most likely you're going to build your mech that gives you the, like, river walk ability, so you can actually move out, but everyone has to kind of do that. So with the Wind Gambit, you, 1, have a tile or 2 tiles that come out that are like, okay, here's your passive ability that affects all ships and everything, and here's the aggressive one. And there's a bunch of those, so you're going to have a different combination of 2 tiles that are coming out that will affect the whole game. And I like events that do that. Sometimes, it depends on the game, but there are times where it's like, draw a card, and it just triggers and then it goes away. Right. And that can just screw over everyone or just one person. But I like the ones that change the whole game. So that's what this does. And it either allows you to carry a bunch of resources around, gives you that variety, or a bunch of workers, which therefore speed up the game a lot. So the other expansion that Scythe did was their cool, I don't remember the name of it, but it was one that added the 2 other factions. Invaders from Afar. Thank you. Yeah. Yep, so those 2 factions are stellar, and I love both of them. However, they're factions, and I just really like that the Wind Gambit just added variety with your Zeppelin and kind of sped the game up a little bit.
Yes.
So,
I mean, I haven't played it. I actually haven't played with any of the expansions for Scythe. I've actually only played Scythe like 2 times. Gotcha. And it was alright. Yeah, it's the best game ever made. No, I mean, I don't disagree. I have no reason to diss on it. Right. It just wasn't one that.
Right, and I've actually heard that a lot of people think it's overrated, and I could definitely see why they would think that.
Well, I don't even think it's an odd game for me. I don't think it's overrated at all. I love the art, I love the game and everything. It's just for some reason I just can't get it.
And I wonder if it's because it's very slow at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know.
The game. So maybe the Wind Gambit would kind of fix it for you.
It quite possibly could.
Because it's like, okay, now I'm out in the board. If you want to be combat heavy, then the Wind Gambit allows you to do so, just because you can now move across, like, you can just move quicker, and it's fantastic. And like I said, Rise of Fenris has, like, one of the probably modular things that will come from that expansion is in one of the games, spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler.
in one of the games you got like a token that you could add some negotiation. It's like, hey, like you could trade abilities, faction abilities, which so it's like, hey, how about we trade abilities? So like I can have the one that lets me do the same action over and over, and you can have the one that lets you do combat, do combat over and over. And I like that's a very small modular thing, but I thought it was really cool because then you also got money when trading those, and it just added some negotiation and more player interaction. So, like I said, Rise of Fenris was probably better than this one. I just haven't finished it. But when Gambit is I think I gave it like a 9 or a 10 on the expansion when I did the review. It's so good. So that's my number 7.
All right, my number 7. This is a total coincidence. Is Seven Wonders Duel Pantheon.
Oh, okay.
7 and 7.
Oh, there we go. I was trying to figure out the coincidence. I'm like, that doesn't tie into Scythe at all.
So, Seven Wonders Duel is strict 2-player game.
This is the one that you told me fixes the game, right?
Well, I don't think it fixes it.
Oh, yeah. If it fixed it for me.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with the base game itself. It's just, to me, this one would be the adding more.
Gotcha.
Because my wife and I played the base game a ton of times, and we both love the hell out of it. But then you throw Pantheon in, and it adds the gods, and they all have these powers that can help you, or they can just totally hose your opponent. It gives you, and it just adds more interaction, and the only interaction really in the first one was hate drafting.
Exactly.
And that was the only interaction. This one actually has the god powers, so then you're, and it's kind of like a half circle of gods. So, and if you look, if you've seen the board, the more closer it is to me, the cheaper it is for me to use that god.
Oh, okay.
If I try to pick god over there, it's more expensive for me. It's cheaper for her over there.
See.
It's more expensive over here, and they're randomly put out.
Gotcha.
So there's like, you may want.
Are they one-time use or?
Yes.
They are. Okay.
Yes. And you get stuff by those tokens that are out there. So because that's what stops a lot of the hate drafting in this game.
Yeah.
Is because on your shapes of cards that you put out here, there's these little tokens you put out there. And so you want those. So if you get the card that's flipped, you get those tokens, and you can use those as currency to do stuff. So
and yeah, you're right. And I remember you mentioning that. And because because one, I obviously hate drafting because in any type of strategy, if your whole strategy is just I don't want you to do well, so I'm gonna target that. It's like, but it doesn't benefit you. It makes me mad. So in Seven Wonders Duel, it's prime for that way more than Seven Wonders is, because even in Seven Wonders you have the variety of I don't want him to have more, attack, so I'll take this, even though I don't really have a lot of attack. It still gives you some military power.
Yeah.
And that one, it's just like, all right, what, you need science?
Yeah. Nah. Yeah, but it just doesn't have, and a lot of it's who you play. I mean, that's the type of people you play with, because my wife and I, we don't hate. I mean, I don't draft. Like because she always goes science most of the time. So I'm not going to draft that card because I know there's a science up here. So I'm going. So I'm going to come over here and take my chances and hope a science doesn't pop up. I don't hate draft. Exactly. Unless you come down. Obviously, you're going
to the wire.
If there's only 2 things, and it's down to, then you're going to hate draft.
Exactly.
But not to do it the whole game from round 1.
Right.
No, Pantheon expansion, just adding those gods and adding those tokens out on your card formations out there and stuff, almost makes it a necessary expansion. I mean, I still like the base game by itself enough, but having that it's just awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the games that I want to try again with that expansion. So, my number 6 is an expansion for a game that I know you've been wanting to play, and I literally almost set it up, but I didn't, because I hate you, apparently. And it's the Warriors of Middle-earth expansion for War of the Ring.
Oh, there we go.
So, War of the Ring is stellar on its own, and they have a Lords of Middle-earth expansion, which add just more characters that can manipulate the events of the game. But the Warriors of Middle-earth, I think, just adds so much more theme to it. And it adds way more factions. So for the heroes, it adds the Eagles, the Ents, and the Ghosts of Gondor.
So you could just end the game like in 5 minutes and fly the Eagles over.
That's it. Yeah, like yeah, it's actually a totally unbalanced expansion. It ruins the game. But and these come in a specific way. So they some start already on the board, but they all play radically different, and how you utilize them are through other cards. So they don't work they don't work quite the same way as just your regular dwarves, elves, and Northmen.
Mm-hmm.
But it adds those 3 for the free peoples. Then for the shadow player, it adds the spiders, the skanky dudes. I don't remember what wildlings. They're not wildlings, but stupid Game of Thrones. It adds those, like the people that Saruman hired to go attack Rohan.
Yeah.
Those guys, and it adds. You think I'd remember? Because there's 3. It added 3 to each side, but with just having those different factions that you can move around and manipulate the events, just make this game so good. And War of the Ring is just amazing in and of itself, because it's kind of like a what if Lord of the Rings game, but it's still grounded in theme, which is great, because it's not just like, oh, what if Frodo killed, I don't know, like it's not far-fetched. What if it's just like, if you were to have fun and be like, well, what if the Balrog left more of the Hellfight Star? It's just like cool things like that. I'm in War of the Ring. I was looking for the expansion. It adds a 3rd faction for them, but it just makes War of the Ring better. But it also makes it a little bit more complex at the same time. So the game isn't really. I mean, I don't know. I have a weird mind, so I think like, oh, Vital Lacerda games aren't complex. When to me they're not, but obviously to anyone who is normal, they would. So Warriors of Middle-earth just adds more. So yeah, that's my number 6.
All right, my number 6.
And while you
is not.
There it is.
It could be viewed as a cheat. I'm not going to call it a cheat though.
Okay.
Because you may not think it is. So it's Raiders of the North Sea, the solo variant expansion.
Oh no, I don't think that's a cheat. That's,
okay, because I mean, with it being a solo variant, I didn't know if it was.
Well, is it?
You have to buy it separately.
Okay, then that's what I was going to ask. Because I'm like Black Angel, for example, came with a solo variant in the box. I wouldn't call that an
You have
expansion.
you have to buy this
Okay.
separately.
Okay.
So, I love Raiders of the North Sea, and as any of you that have watched a lot of I do solo games a lot. So this was just perfect.
Real quick.
Yes.
The Corsairs of Umbar, Wild Hillmen from Dunland, and Giant Spiders.
So the Corsairs were the pirate things, right?
Yes, and then the Wild Hillmen were who I was thinking of that Saruman hired. And then Ents, Dead Men of Dunharrow, and then Great Eagles from Misty Mountains.
Gotcha.
Sorry, that was
No,
me.
I got you. But anyway, so being able to play Raiders solo, I was I heard about it. I was hesitant to buy it for a while because I was like, okay, is this just going to turn into a point thing and all that stuff? It's not. This is a total AI, and it's a masterpiece in my mind. Just the way that they do this. It's 23 cards.
Okay.
Is all. You have to buy it from their site. It's from
from
New Zealand is where you'll have to buy it from. But what happens is, and it works with the expansions too. So the Hall of Heroes and the Field of Fame and all that stuff. But you always go first. So you'll do your, place your worker, pick up worker as normal. And there will always be a spot taken though from the previous time. So when you'll flip a card and they'll say so there's one thing you can't use.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's simulating
someone
taking
there.
it.
Okay.
But when you flip a card, then you'll do what it says.
Okay.
They'll raid or they'll work and gather stuff, whatever, and you're just going back and forth with it, and it sounds basic and kind of boring, but the way that they get these cards to work is so good. it really pushes it.
I haven't played this, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's pure speculation on this point. And I've been playing a lot more solo games, just trying to come up with a satisfying list for when we do a top, because it's been asked for to do a solo top 10. But I can't, and I know it's perfect for you, and because you've mentioned it before, there's been people who've commented.
Yeah.
But I cannot ethically like make a top 10 because I'm pretty sure I'm just be bullshitting.
Yep.
And I don't want to do the co-op route where it's like, oh, every co-op game is technically solo because you can just control. I'm trying to avoid that. I want to do purely solo modes.
Right.
The two that I've done are Feudum and Black Angel, and I don't know if it's just the nature of solo games, but it's so difficult for those because AIs don't have to manage shit. So like if I'm playing like Feudum with you, you have to manage food for your workers and stuff, and the AI doesn't have to do that, so they just get to do everything fucking free, and it just bugs me so much, because it's like, well, you do everything so well just because you just get to do it. You don't have to manage workers, you don't have to manage all that. So does the AI, I guess it would make it cumbersome if you had to manage their resources too, but is the AI like busted in that way?
No, it's not. It's difficult. I mean, it's not easy to beat, but it's not impossible to beat either.
Gotcha.
Like I said, it's 23 cards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's a pretty simplistic deal, but and there's other games. You know, like there's other games that do it better.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean,
I feel like Raiders of the North Sea quite a bit.
Raiders is awesome. You know, so any way I can get to play it that way and it still be enjoyable.
Right.
Is.
Yeah.
Like I think about Imperial Settlers. Have you played the solo version of Imperial Settlers?
No, that's one on the list.
Okay. It is just points.
Okay.
I
think I like those.
The barbarians are coming.
Yeah.
You're trying to max your points out.
Yeah.
Those are fun. I like those too. But this one actually feels like you're playing somebody else.
Okay.
So that's why I like it, you know,
Gotcha.
and stuff. So.
All right.
Anyway, the solo variant for Raiders of the North Sea.
I didn't even know it had a solo variant, which is funny.
Yes.
So, but then again, that game, I really love that worker placement aspect, but there was just something about it that just didn't quite mesh for me. My number 5 is, and I've done a top 10 expansions for this because the game has over 10 expansions, so this is easily my favorite of it. It's the Woodlands expansion for Talisman. So, the reason why this is my favorite over 10 expansions that this game has is because it added, it just felt fresh and it felt unique than the other expansion. Don't get me wrong, the dungeon expansion for this one is still great because you go through a dungeon and they have specific cards for each of the different expansions for it. But the Woodlands took something from the base game and twisted it on its head. So in Talisman you have Fate tokens that you can spend to reroll dice. In this one, the Fate had 2 different colored sides, which depicted your alignment. So if you had more Fate, when you got a Fate, you had to decide which side you wanted. Black side allowed you to, or the dark side allowed you to re-roll other people's dice. The light side allowed you to re-roll your own. So if you wanted to manipulate it in certain ways, you had to pick your color. Then, whenever you went into the Woodlands, most of the cards depended on your alignment, which I just thought was very refreshing. Made it feel completely unique because it's all fey and mystical. And when you walk in, you get a path to walk that that can affect how you're going to go through this area. And then at the end, you could turn those cards in to get like a permanent ability. It added so much for such a small expansion. And I really hate how they made the board, because in the other ones you just kind of folded them on each other. This one you had to like fold half and then half, and it was just fucking stupid. But after playing Talisman, I think the last time I played Talisman was a year ago, just because it takes so long, and I've just been keeping up with the channel a lot more, but it's still my favorite. It's so fun to go through, and like my least favorite one, well, it's probably the dragons, just because it makes the game very cumbersome and long, but it's this one. I mean, I always play with all 4 corner boards anyway, just to add variety to it, but this one's my favorite one to go through. So,
alright.
And obviously Talisman will never be on your list, because I don't even think you like the game.
I don't dislike it, I don't have any...
Right, it's like, yeah, that's
like,
how I think
if I was going to play one, I'd probably rather play the Relic.
Gotcha, that's right.
That's right.
Um,
Okay, my number 5 is an expansion to a 2-player card game that made it co-op.
Is an expansion to a 2 that made it co-op. Hero Realms?
Yes.
Okay.
Hero Realms, the Ruin of Thandar campaign expansion.
Okay.
2-player card games are hard for me to anyway. But then when I saw that they had this campaign expansion come out that made it solo / co-op, I jumped on it and I bought all the stuff.
That almost seems like a duh expansion. Like Hero
Right.
Realms doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for it to be competitive.
It is though.
Like
they have
Star
the
Realms, I
tournaments and
kind of
stuff.
guess.
You know
Like just
yeah.
theme wise.
Right.
Yeah. So the campaign expansion just seems like an obvious one.
In order to do the campaign expansion, you need to at least have however many players are playing's worth of those character decks.
Yep.
If you get all 4 or 5 of them or 6 of them, however many there are right now.
Yeah, they're the generic ones.
You get those, but then you run through the story, and it's just a small little storybook, and it's a really easy, simple campaign. Not easy to beat, but simple campaign. But you follow through, and how you do against the big dude. He gets his own deck of creatures, and you level up your characters. Your deck gets better as you go, and it's just Hero Realms is so cool with the great art and the easy gameplay and stuff for deck building and all that stuff, because you are still playing the same game. There's still stuff that pops up out there. You're buying stuff, doing all that stuff. But having the second scenario that you play, depending on your choice after the first one, is nearly I beat it, but it is so tough. So one of the choices you make is really, really difficult to beat. So
I didn't even know there were choices.
Yeah, you get to make, after you win let's say the first scenario, you beat the first scenario, then you read a story. Okay. And it's like, if you do this, turn the page whatever. If you do this, turn the page whatever. And then it tells you to set up, and then you have to set up the deal. So it's really neat. Cool. You know, it's and there's another campaign expansion coming. They had a Kickstarter a while back
more characters?
There's not characters.
Okay.
There is they're called
like assistants or something. I have no idea.
It's not characters. It's like it's I'll look it up here in a second. But it's no, there's not characters. It's just something. There's other deals. Anyway, but Hero Realms, the Thandar campaign expansion is
awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because I bought Hero Realms at Gen Con. I got everything for it, and the guy was really nice, because I sat there and I paid for everything, and then I was like, oh shit, I actually already have the base game. Can I return that, because I just bought one?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know if he just didn't want to do it, but he gave me a whole bunch of sleeves for free.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, sure.
Did he have glasses and darker complected guy?
No, this guy was tall and he was kind of bigger. I do not remember his name.
He had reddish hair. And,
yes,
yeah. He's a funny dude.
So so I thought that was nice. Yeah, but my number 4 is I'm pretty sure that this might be your number 1, or if not your number 1, your number 2. It's the Trade and Intrigue expansion for Orleans, or I'm sure I would hope an Orleans expansion is on your list at some point, and it's funny because I only like half of this expansion.
Yeah.
The Intrigue board, I literally burned. I sent you a picture of me burning it, because I'm like, this is just such garbage.
I actually played with that expansion.
Did you? Did you like it?
I personally didn't, but the people I played it with liked it, so I kept it, because I was like, if I ever play with them again, I'll never play it myself, if I'm putting it.
Right. I cannot justify playing Orleans as a big fucking asshole. But the trade part freshens this game up so much, because it replaces the Town Hall board with just one that actually gives you not abilities, but a unique choice. So in the original one, it's like, hey, how about you put your monks here to get a coin? And it's like, why the hell would I ever do that? This one, you actually have some ideas. It's like, oh man, I could put my monk in there to move through France, or through a road, or I could do it to to actually utilize like a different area or to get some goods. Like it just gave you so many more options with Town Hall that you wanted to thin your bag out. You wanted to utilize. It's like, okay, I have a lot of farmers. I've kind of already done that, so I'm gonna start sending them this way to get special areas. So it just, this was the one that I forgot whenever I was making my list, and I was looking at my older list, and I'm like, oh yes, that has to go on here. So it shot to number 4, pushed everything else down. Actually kicked the Seasons of Vintage one off. But yeah, I mean, and you could probably put the co-op one, the invasion one, because that's really cool. It's so hard. At least I found the co-op version to be really, really difficult. At least at 2, because that's the only way I've played it. But yeah, that's my number 4, the Trade Intrigue.
Really quick before I jump into my 4, to answer your hero realms question. They aren't having new heroes, but they're called Ancestries. So they're the same thing as heroes.
Oh, I see.
So you can play as a dwarf, an elf, an ogre, an orc, or a small folk.
Oh,
and it does the same thing as the heroes. It's just they're called Ancestry now instead of
weird.
Yeah, I don't know why, but anyway.
Okay, sweet. That's what I was curious about, because like I like how they have different packs for hero realms, but I'm like, these are really generic. Like there's a fighter and thief, and it's like, all right.
I think it's just because you're creating them throughout, especially if you do a campaign, you'll get to see your own special equipment and stuff. It's really neat.
I will say the shitty thing about Hero Realms is when you're trying to organize that big box that they have, it's just like, I'm like, what are these cards? There's no...
The campaign cards are hard to sort
yeah,
unless you know what you're doing.
Exactly. So I was like, I finally figured out where everything is, but man, it was rough. Anyway, so number 4 was Orleans Trade and Intrigue.
Alright, my number 4, I know for a fact will be on your list, and I'm surprised, you'll probably be surprised it's not higher on mine, is Roleplay Monsters and Minions.
I am very surprised that that's not higher on yours. That's the one that I thought would actually be your number 1.
Yeah, these 4 kind of,
Yeah.
But anyway, Roleplayer Monsters and Minions. Roleplayer is a wonderful game all by itself. It's one of those, though, that after you play it a handful of times, it kind of starts to get samey.
I wouldn't say samey. I would say it leaves you wanting more. Because
that's
like,
what kind of,
the whole point of the game is building a D&D character, and like that'd be like if you're trying to play an RPG and it's like, all right, let's make characters. That's it.
And by samey, I mean like you're rolling your dice.
Yeah.
You do the same things over and over.
For
and
sure.
Over. It becomes mechanical.
Yes.
In a way, like
I see what you're saying.
So when you do this, you have options. You can either buy something or you can take out a minion, which will help you unlock your own one. And then at the very end, of course, you take your entire created person and you go take on the big bad, which is a dragon or vampire or whatever. So it adds what you wanted, what people wanted to the base game to be able to use your character and do something with
else.
them. And then with the Feast and Familiar or the
Fiends and Familiars
that is coming
Feast
out.
and Familiar.
It's again, I think it's going to do a lot of the same thing. I think it's going to add some cool mechanics. It's going to do the same thing.
We playtested the adventures.
Yeah, and then the adventures will be where you'll be able to use your created characters if you want in the game to go on actual almost like an RPG kind of story adventure. But anyway, Monsters and Minions. It just is. It almost. You never want to play without it anymore. It's not that it fixes the game or replaces anything. It's just it's so simple.
You're gonna want options because there are times in the market where it's like I don't want any of that.
Right.
And I don't think there's a way to just cull the market. So then it's like you have something else to do.
And like we talked about with Prelude earlier, you can have a new player jump right in and it makes it this isn't going to make the game any harder.
Exactly.
You're doing what you're doing in the game anyway, and then you just get to do something an extra step at the very end after your spots are all.
And it also adds the clear dice, which are really high valued, but they don't
3 to 8. I think
they was 3 to 8, and it doesn't give you your color ability, but it can help you meet your stat ability.
Did you see those dice for Fiends and Familiars, the 2-colored dice?
No, I didn't.
Did you see that? That's that's how the dice are in Fiends and Familiars. They're dice and they're segmented in half.
Oh, weird.
Diagonally, so like it could be purple and white, or black and red, or it's like so they can count as either color.
I did not see that. That's neat. And then it also, I'm sorry, I didn't mention it. It adds the solo variant to role player. Was that in the base game? No, there was a solo variant for the monsters and minions because you had to fight the.
But you do that with the base game, play solo too.
Yeah, but that's boring.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll make a character.
Well, I know.
Just go and grab a
D&D
D&D core rulebook and make your character that way.
That's the one thing about role player though in general is there's not player interaction.
Right.
Which is I think will change.
With fiends and familiars?
I think there's adds some more stuff to it.
Cool.
So, but anyway, wonderful expansion.
I'm curious at what the three above this are.
Yeah.
So I'm making a last minute change here because I was sitting there looking at it and I was like, nope, that has to be my number one. So my new number 3 is going to be Merchants and Marauders, the Seas of Glory expansion. So, and I'll explain why I'm moving this around. So, the Merchants and Marauders is already a really good game. This game is so good about pirates and stuff like that every other pirate game that comes out, I'm like, why would I play that when I have Merchants and Marauders? So, the Seas of Glory expansion is also a modular expansion that just adds so much more theme, and there's a bunch of modules in this expansion. Like one of them adds weather to the game, so like you can actually have like it's like it's not a standee, but it's like clouds on a little peg thing that move around, and that if you're in that, you actually can't seek out other people, but you also have to, if you go through, you have to roll to see if you're getting damaged because of the storm. It adds like a gold merchant ship that you can go after that if you can get it, just gives you it's a better ship. It adds more cards, more pirates, and I know I'm missing a bunch of different other modules because it adds a bunch, but I do remember that this one just made the game pop so much more because in the regular game it also fixed, like, well, not really fixed, but it helped control the NPCs because there were merchant NPCs that moved around and there were also pirate NPCs that moved around, and in the base game it was you were not really linear, it was still kind of a sandbox game, but with this expansion, with just the sheer amount of variety that it brings to the table, I wouldn't say it's a necessity just because the game is kind of complex. Mm-hmm. And if you add too much of these expansions or these modules, then it can kind of overbloat it. But most of the ones in this expansion are really good, and almost I would put them in just because if you want that pirate feel, this is the expansion that will give you this sheer pirate feel. But the reason why I moved it, I moved this stuff around and put this at number 3 is because the one I moved up is just fucking great, and I like the base game better than Merchants and Marauders, so that's kind of why I also moved it down. So that's my new number 3, Seas of Glory with the Merchants and Marauders expansion, or with Merchants and Marauders.
All right, my number 3. I'm gonna cheat just
again. Man, you just cheat.
Well, I did. I almost cheated on the one. Remember, I chose Sudden Death over Foul Play.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And then the solo variant we agreed on was okay.
Oh, gotcha.
Iterators. This one will just blatantly be a cheat.
Okay. It's all the expansions for Smash Up.
No.
Okay.
Is going to be the Trade and Intrigue / Invasion expansions for Orleans, because I just lump them all together.
Gotcha. Alright, so there's our second crossover.
Alright, so they all just kind of merge into one big expansion for me. Minus the Intrigue part.
The Intrigue, yeah.
Because that I tried it for the first time.
I'm surprised you tried it.
They wanted to, because they had heard, because they had played Orleans before, and they wanted to try it. And it was okay, but it was just...
It just seems unnecessarily mean.
Yeah,
the game never calls for it.
Invasion, I love it. Well, for co-op purposes, but also just because it adds just a crap ton of event tiles.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So because when you play the base game, there's 18 or whatever tiles. And there's 3 of each, so you know each one's gonna hit 3 times. Yeah. Then when you do the invasion,
even then, I just love how Orleans does their events. It's not like, hey, fuck off now. It's okay, this will trigger. Yep.
Yeah. So,
You're right. It did add a
Orleans,
bunch of variety to events.
if you remember, top 100 Orleans is my #1 game of all time.
That one shocked me. I remember
right.
that.
So
you're welcome.
yes. I still have never lost. But
we didn't finish our game. You probably would have won that, but we didn't finish, so it's a draw.
But a draw's not losing.
Alright, fair enough.
But anyway, but yeah, just and then the trade and intrigue, getting rid of that shitty core game town.
I think I threw that away
board.
too.
I didn't just because I don't know why.
You'll never go back to it.
Yeah,
Just get rid of it. Use it as kindling.
It's just all just such a damn good game.
It is.
And side note, if you use coin capsules for your deals, it's pretty fucking awesome.
I'm like, alright.
Well, you don't have to do it now because BGG has the
upgraded ones.
Those upgraded ones.
Might
that
just
are really
buy
nice.
those just to do it because I don't want to put them together.
Yeah. But anyway, so like you said, it's just great stuff. I mean, they could, and I don't know if they're done with this game now.
I would actually say I hope they are. Like, this game has enough variety and game. I just don't want it to be over bloated.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Good choice. Good choice. My number 2 is our third crossover. Can you guess what it is? You literally just said it.
So you split yours?
No, sorry, the role player. Monsters and Minions. Okay. No, I haven't played the co-op enough for Orleans to justify putting it on a list. Yeah. But exactly what you said, role player, Monsters and Minions. This is an expansion I refuse to play without. It will, every time I play it will get added. Just because it just adds so much. It gives you something to do with your character, which is always neat. And I mean, without hitting hitting over the head too much, pretty much everything you just said for it, and I kind of chimed in on my other thoughts. So that's my number 2, role player, Monsters and Minions.
All right. My number 2 is Champions of Midgard Valhalla.
Okay, I was waiting for a Champions of Midgard expansion.
Yeah, I chose the Valhalla one because it doesn't fix anything. It just makes it makes when you lose your dice, it gives you more because usually if you took your ship over and you fought the sea monsters and you get decimated and you lose 4 warriors and then you have to kind of rebuild and stuff. The Valhalla expansion, every dice you lose that dies, you get a little token that has that color, and then there's a Valhalla track of cards and stuff up top, and you can use those as currency to buy something.
That's pretty cool.
To help you out. So it's like they're helping you out from their glory of Valhalla help you out.
That's neat.
So you get this whole huge ton of these chips that represent all the dice.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you may want to kill some of your people off because there's a badass Valkyrie up there with a bunch of points. So you go through and just be like, send you guys
go fight that sea monster,
and then they all die, and then you get 4 tokens.
You're like, no.
Right. So it adds a whole cool little that whole another little board, the Valhalla board. It has a little deck of cards. It has things you can buy that just are power ups and stuff.
That's really neat.
So
you're right. You didn't get anything if your people died.
Right. They just left.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. It become really cutthroat because because with it being such a random game with die rolling to try to kill these monsters, and it's you build up, because you have to spend all these resources to cross the sea, the food and provisions.
Oh, and then the event can screw you over.
And then you roll something. It's like, fuck.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you lose all your people. Well, now it's okay, silver lining. I can buy something up there. So the was it Undermountain or Underdark? What was the other expansion?
I have
Valhalla
no idea.
and Mountain. Oh, the Mountains of something. Anyway, that one's good too, but because it adds the green dice and the extra troll decks and all that stuff.
Okay.
But no, the Valhalla, just for the variation of and uniqueness of you losing your dice and being able to...
The Dark Mountains.
Dark Mountain, okay. But just... Valhalla also, sorry, this was another part of that expansion, is you got a leader token as well.
Okay.
That are a leader dice. So you have a dice that it won't die, but it's like a leader
Fierce
thing.
new warriors in the form of berserkers and shield warriors. Oh, that's new dice.
Yeah.
Oh, neat. Custom dice and powers for your leaders.
I always think the berserkers crack me up because they're pink dice.
Oh,
It's neat. But no, just and I forgot about those because the best part of the Valhalla expansion is just being able to use your dice to do something up there and stuff. That just does a ton of cool stuff with it.
Yeah, man, this is one I may pick up again and just never play it. Ever play it with two people.
Yeah, don't. I mean, it's...
Because, and probably with that Valhalla expansion, because now that you say, I do kind of remember that there was never really... the risk was too great to go after fight those monsters, because it's like, well, I'll fucking lose them all, and it just took forever to get all these guys. Ow. Yeah, I might check it out. You'll have to bring it up sometime again, and we'll play it.
Yeah.
Before I spend a lot of money on it.
Because we played with all the expansions and stuff, me and Chad and the Chads. And it's
there are a couple that we know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
If they ever watch this, they're gonna be like.
but anyway, it's cool. And then I was at Origins. I bought the big playmat.
I saw that. Yeah.
So it has all the stuff and it's huge, oversized, everything. So I'd like to play on that sometime. But yeah. It's just a wonderful game because it's a top 10 game for me. I can't remember exactly where it was.
Right.
Top 100.
Right. Is it top 10 because of those expansions?
No.
Oh, okay. By itself.
It was pushing top 10 before I had
Gotcha.
that.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah. It was like 10 or 11 or 12 back in the day. So that just adds this little extra.
Awesome.
Yep. Valhalla.
So my number one. Can you guess what it is?
Top expansions.
Yep. You probably won't be able to guess it just because this expansion came out at Gen Con.
Like this year?
This year. And the base game by itself is already amazing, and this expansion made this game a 10 for me. It was probably a 9 already.
Everdell?
No, that's actually not a bad idea. I thought about the Pearlbrook expansion being added whenever I was making this list, but it didn't quite add enough. Like, it was nice to have a new location. It's a really good expansion, but it didn't really change a whole lot. You might actually be able to see the box from here, but it's not on that shelf. Like, there's a pile over there.
Oh, Teotihuacan?
Yep, the late pre-classic, is it period or era? I couldn't remember. Period. Okay. The late pre-classic period for Teotihuacan is so good. Like,
I've never played the
Teotihuacan is also so good. Like, if I had played it in 2018 when it came out, it probably would have been number one. Like, it's fantastic, if not up there. But, like I've been saying this whole list, late pre-classic era is a modular expansion that I think is just a great idea in general. But everything in it is really good. So it adds a module for individual player powers, which is always great. Like, otherwise you just had dice and everyone's dice were the same. Now in Solus the dice are all the same, but everyone has an ability. Like, for example, my ability was, there's a set collection thing in this game that where, like, if you got masks, you can, and that's a great way to get a bunch of points. My guy was like, if you get a mask, then you also get to go up on a track of your choice and get a resource of your choice. So, but I couldn't take tiles that weren't masks. And over time, the masks were getting difficult to find, so I was like, man, all of these would be really good to have right now. So, and then there's just a bunch of, like, it was just great. Like, they were super balanced. Like, if I was looking around and I'm like, I kind of want that one now. Or what Cat had. So, that was one. It added a fourth track to go up that would give you a permanent ability throughout the game. Like, the one I happened to get was, if you go on a track to worship, you can either go up on the track or get a tile, but you can pay pay a cocoa to do both. One of the abilities you can grab is you don't have to make that payment. So as you go up on the track, you get better and better abilities that you have. It adds events that come out that affect the whole Eclipse era. Then it also adds it's just a new ways to build the pyramid. So it just makes, like, everything is just so good in this expansion that whenever I was looking at it, I knew Role Player was going to be number 2, but Merchants and Teotihuacan, I was like, nope. I think Teotihuacan, like that expansion, just is the best one in my opinion for an already stellar game.
Yeah. See, I've never played. I played its predecessor, Zolkin, but I haven't. I haven't played Teotihuacan.
Yeah, I would almost say because Zolkin doesn't have an expansion, does it? It does. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just haven't played the expansion.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure, but yeah, like it's phenomenal. Like it's so good. It's so good.
I can't get myself to pull the trigger on that game. It intrigues me a ton.
You like dice worker placement, right?
Yeah, it intrigues me a ton. But then every time I see that board's laid out, I'm like, I can't pull the trigger. And I know it's a great game. And
I actually really like the board. I think it's really cool. Like and the 3D aspect of building the pyramid is neat. Like this game just has so many ways to get victory points. It's really a simple game to learn as well. Like your dice aren't controlled by rolling. They all start at level 1, but if you do actions, they level up. And once they move to 6, they ascend, and you get like a benefit for that, which is really cool. Then they go back to 1. You just start over. This game is phenomenal, and the expansions just like ascended it to a 10 out of 10 for me. Just with the player powers make the game so that much more fresh. So yeah, that's my number 1, the late pre-classic period expansion for Teotihuacan.
Alright, that's my number 1.
Is it a crossover?
Yes.
It's the Artisans of Nacala. Yeah, okay.
Yep, 5 Tribes, Artisans of Nacala.
Okay.
I'm
surprised that's your number 1.
Well, this 5 Tribes was my number 1 game for
that's right.
a couple of years.
I remember that.
It flipped to number 2 now behind
Orleans. That's crazy that Orleans is your favorite game, but this expansion is...
Well, because I love the base game Orleans.
Yeah.
Like, when you showed me the base game, because we played with... I think we played with some expansions that first
I think we
time
played with like some of the new events.
But then every time I played it since then was just base game with other people, I enjoyed it just as much. And then...
That's true.
But anyway, just like you said with the Artisans of Nacala, way back earlier in the list.
And that was my number 10.
I will play this game bare bones, base game, just as much as I'll play within expansions. I just like this expansion because it adds more another color meeple. It has mountains, it has the different tile deals. I would go far enough though as you said that the mountains reduce AP.
I think so because you don't have they limit where you can go, so therefore you don't have 25 options of like I can go literally anywhere.
But then I'm like, how can I find a way to get into the mountains?
Maybe it just changes like your AP. You're not so blown up by your options. You have to at least think, oh, I can't go from here to here.
Right.
But then you have to also think. I guess you're right.
And it makes your board bigger because remember your board goes bigger.
Oh, you're right.
With two, yeah. So I mean it's here and there.
I guess it doesn't really change your AP.
It just depends. I mean,
I guess for
AP
me it does.
AP is within the person. Like it just depends on the deal. But of all the 5 Tribes expansions, this one's the best one. Just because it messes with the board. It makes it to where you can kind of...
yeah, because the way the tiles come out changes where the mountains will be.
Right.
Yep, and that's more. And the tokens you can get for the purple meeples
those can be pretty
powerful. Because the first time we played 5 Tribes, we had them, and
I had a lot of points on it.
That's right, and it's funny. I have never won 5 Tribes. I played again, and I lost to the stupid tokens, and I'm like, man.
That's another. Well, it was the time we played 5 Tribes.
The genie
is when I had the djinn that was out there.
That's right.
Yeah, puking.
So
out.
the djinns were gross. But yeah, I've lost them a completely different way each time, and
that's I don't get it. Yeah, if you can lose a game and then you still
have that is true.
Good stuff, So, which have you played Istanbul yet?
No, it's over there.
I mean, you'll kind of get a feel with that a little bit because it's got the whole deal where you drop your workers as you move.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like that. But
Like Mancala, but not
a little bit, but I mean it's. But
Yeah.
anyway, so 5 Tribes Artisans of Nacala, it's top notch.
It's interesting. I expected Smash Up to be on your list.
What
but
would I pick though?
And that's exactly what I was
What are you
at.
doing?
I'm like, it has
Like-
so many expansions.
There is no big box expansions really, unless I pick the
big,
Munchkin one.
or the bigger, geekier box. Just that expansion. Add so much box.
Yeah, because I almost put a.
See the new one, the new culture one that has like the folk tales. That one seems really, really neat. But once again, it's like I can't. I love factions in that game, but I can't really pick an expansion and be like, these 4 are amazing versus these 4. Like the Cthulhu one I really like, but I was in that same boat. I actually really hate all the Blood Rage expansions. Like, I don't like any of them.
Well, and I was
Well,
thinking,
I guess I do like the guy that can replace other workers. I can't remember what they're called right now.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
The Mystics.
Mystics.
Yep.
Guard, yeah.
But then I was looking at Rising Sun, and I'm like, no, because that's the problem. Is like all of these, funny enough, actually are not Kickstarter. Like all these expansions are not, at least from Monsters and Minions was, but the rest of them were not Kickstarter expansions because when you're buying a Kickstarter game, like they're so like bloated with just shit. Like, I couldn't take Rising Sun and be like, that expansion is great because it came with everything else.
Right.
I didn't get a chance to play the base game and then play an expansion later on,
Right.
like I did with all of these. Like, so, and I mean, hell, even you brought Resident Evil 2, that's Kickstarter, that has a bunch of stuff. That's like, well, I guess I don't really know what to add because it all already kind of came. Kind of like the Kingsburg example. The base game comes with the expansion now, but you don't know that it's an expansion.
Right.
That was my 5th one. Like we ended up having 4 crossover, and the 5th one was Kingsburg. I had assumed.
And it was on my list initially, and I backed off just because I was like trying to figure out.
Trying to make it 10.
But see, like
11.
I had 2 Brimstone expansions on here, but then I was like, that was another thing. None of my games were, I'm going to use this term loosely, collectible.
Oh, I see.
Like, you have Brimstone, there's so many enemy packs, and you don't have to play the game, but you can. Same with probably Kingdom Death.
That's actually a good, that's
you know
a good
what I'm saying?
example.
Like those are all expansions technically, but I didn't put anything. None of these games were collectible.
Yep, you're right.
You know, stuff either. So
That's a good point. I didn't do that either because I thought about Kingdom Death, but I'm like, well, one, I haven't fought a lot of those monsters, but they're just monsters.
Right, which is exactly why I didn't do Smash Up or any of those because those are technically collectible. You know, you're
I guess
you don't have to have those to
play the game.
I mean, there's
Right.
everything's just now. If it was adding more aspects other than just factions and stuff, that would
That's
be.
a good point.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I stayed.
That's why I stay away from more of a legendary as well. I'm like, these are just heroes, like that just add more to the game.
I
but they
had
don't
one
change
on
the game.
there. I had the Civil War one was on my short list.
Okay.
Because it added the double cards.
Yeah.
And I almost
it's
did that
true.
because it added that little new thing, but I was like,
Right. I mean, World War Hulk probably would be my one for that, but I'm
Yeah.
like, look, it adds new terms, and that's nice, but
Right.
it doesn't really change the game in any way. So all of my expansions, I wanted to change the base game in some drastic way.
Yep.
So those are our top 10 expansions. Let us know what your favorite expansions for games are in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this, and if you like this video, then click the subscribe button below to enjoy any video that I put out. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. Click that so you get notified of whenever I actually upload these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.